And the beautiful daughter of Governor Schwarzenegger, Catherine Schwarzenegger, was on The View yesterday talking with the ladies of The View. And, you know, it's so funny. Beautiful girl, but you can see some of her father. Well, here, take a look.
Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia. When you see that, though, I mean, how does that affect how you grow up in terms of your own body image and what it's expected?
I really look at those pictures. I don't feel any extra pressure from him just because I think he's so muscly and a man like that.
It's Monday, September 20th. Coming up live on The View. Kick off your week with a full show of the hottest topics on TV. From Christine O'Donnell's comments about dabbling in witchcraft to Lindsay failing yet another drug test and why you'll be paying for the Octomom's 14 kids. Then, the Red, White, and View is getting a rare glimpse inside the Oval Office when President Jimmy Carter opens the pages of his White House diary to reveal his personal battles with the Iran hostage drama, the energy crisis, and the struggle for peace in the Middle East. Plus, giving his view of the most important issue President Obama needs to address now. All that, hot topics, and more, coming up live on The View.
Not here today. She's going to have a couple of days off, and we have a day of starting with hot topics, but then we've got Jimmy Carter on with us and a very important day. Jay Leno talks about us a lot.
I know.
We love him. He's making us famous.
Thank you, Jay. We're making him famous, okay?
Whatever it is. However it gets you. Speaking of famous, before we get to more serious subjects, your heart is pounding with joy, is it not?
No, it's not pounding with joy. It's pounding for joy.
Yeah.
We tonight, by the way, Dancing with the Stars starts. We know you love that, Sherry. And there is a shot. It's been reported and rumored that Sarah Palin could perhaps make an appearance in support of Bristol Palin, who'll be dancing tonight, supposedly wearing a conservative outfit and then stripping it down to near nothing. I don't know, but that's what is
on
rumored.
the right, but she'll have two left feet. I guarantee you.
But you know what's so great is because this year we support Dancing with the Stars. So you know
by default,
because we love them, and so now when I don't want to say the losers, but the people that were voted off,
the
ones who don't win, come on our show and they dance.
Yes.
So
yeah, they're going
to. Could be here.
So
she's been here.
Yeah, she came once.
But not dancing.
But not dancing. She'll come and do the...
All right.
Exciting.
Okay, so
she was here.
You never know. You're watching Kurt Warner is on.
Yeah.
Okay, so President Jimmy Carter is here, and I just gave him a big hug, and because we went through... He was president, but I did some of my most important interviews, I think, Sadat and Begin and Fidel Castro and so forth, and in Panama when he was president. So I have a very close feeling about him. And he has written now a book that's very controversial because it's his diary of his actual years in office. And one of the things that he says is that he was so in favor of health care, and he had a bill, and it's taken 30 years before we have another health care bill, because Ted Kennedy, who was a senator, deliberately defeated it, and did it because he was angry at Jimmy Carter because he had run for the nomination in 1980. Jimmy Carter won. And so the President Carter says that Ted Kennedy took it out on him. Okay, so the question is...
Took it out on him or on the American people?
took it out on the
that really affected the American people.
So, but the question is that Ted Kennedy is revered today, and he's dead, and it's a bigger question that we were all talking before in the dressing room, and that is, do you write about it or do you criticize the dead?
Well, in your book, Audition, I know you've come into contact with so many people, Barbara, and were there people, and no specifics, but I'm sure that there were people that you may have wanted to say something about that you just chose not to.
Yeah, I was very careful.
Now, but it was your story. That's what I think. If it's your story and you're talking about somebody...
You were careful if they had passed.
That's why Jimmy Carter, to some... You know, that's one of the stories that's come out of this book that he's not writing about and talking about Ted Kennedy.
But you're not a politician, Barbara. In politics, all's fair, I think. And the Kennedys are all dead now anyway, so we can't talk about any of them? I mean, come on.
But I also think you're also looking at a man, I mean,
history.
President Carter, he's also been incredibly vocal about past presidents alive, dead, politicians alive, dead. So I think this is not uncharacteristic for him, and so I think it's almost expected. It's just how he operates.
As the worst president until George Bush that we've ever had.
Well, don't wait. There may be one more who may indeed turn out to be.
Oh, I don't think so.
What do you say?
You have 3 people over here who agree with you. Tea Party.
No, but on the other hand, you're writing about a person who is no longer here, who can't say anything to defend themselves. So it's just one side that I don't know.
That's his point of view. I mean, Kennedy wrote a memoir.
We'll ask him about it. But you know, it is interesting what you're saying is that this president that President Carter has criticized George Bush and Bill Clinton. George Bush, our last. Not the father, but George W. has been very careful not to criticize Obama. Right. And Jimmy Carter says, hey, listen, I'm going to tell it like it is. So which
he's doing it now, 30 years later. I mean, we don't know what W's going to do in 30 years. He might be just as angry and bitter as, Jimmy was vilified for many years, and he was a very good person.
No, I'm talking about now. He was.
Yes.
But he waited 30 years.
No, but I'm talking about now. He hasn't waited to talk about Clinton and Bush. He's consistently,
whereas most will say nothing.
He says so.
It's an interesting
Jimmy
read,
Carter.
I have to say.
Yeah, but Jimmy was, I'm saying that Carter was president many years ago. George Bush was just president, so it's a little less, it's unseemly for him to do it now.
About it. He'll be on with us shortly. Well, speaking of politics, the Republican Delaware Senate nominee, Christine O'Donnell, her past came back to haunt her over the weekend, and she defended herself against comments she made back in 1999 on Bill Maher's old show called Politically Correct.
Incorrect.
Politically incorrect.
Incorrect.
Okay, so this is what she said then, and then we have what she's saying now. So take a look now.
I dabbled into witchcraft. I never joined a coven. One of my first dates with a witch was on a satanic altar, and I didn't know it. I was in high school. How many of you didn't hang out with questionable folks in high school? But no, there's been no witchcraft since. If there was, Karl Rove would be a supporter now.
I don't even understand. What does that mean?
I didn't get that.
What does it mean? That Karl Rove would like her better if he knew she was a witch?
No, she's saying that if she was a witch, she would have cast a spell, and Karl Rove would have been a supporter.
So she's a
but I think, in this respect, because she says she's a conservative Christian, and the basis for being a Christian is you might have a former life, you let that go, and you're not doing that anymore.
Former life?
Like she said, she dabbled in witchcraft.
Oh, you mean in this life?
Yeah, so I'm going, so do you hold
it? Do you hold former life was when she was younger?
I'm not saying when she was dead and came back. I'm just saying
earlier.
As a Christian, we talk about being reborn again.
Do you think it's valid to then question this? Do you think this is even a valid thing to look at that Bill's throwing out here on his show?
I think it shows you how crazy the girl is, doesn't it?
Why?
How many crazy people do we have to have in office?
No. Well, let's start with this. Hang on, Joy. In fairness, if we're going to investigate past religious affiliations or dabbles or high school trips here and there, why then wasn't Billy Boy over here so interested in where President Obama was for 20 years at Reverend Wright's church? So much so that he separated
from him over the coals. Nobody let that go.
Though they did?
Nobody let that go
over Reverend Wright. They absolutely brushed it under the rug.
This girl is also
in fairness, if they're going to dig into this, they should then open that up again too. I am all for disclosure, and I think it should happen.
But here's a girl who says that she didn't masturbate. She doesn't believe in masturbating either, and she wants to make public policy about other people's sex lives.
Is it a girl or a woman?
She's a witch who doesn't masturbate, who has never had premarital sex. Why is she running for office?
Why do you call her a girl? But anyone who's powerful a woman. I think you can't just toss her up as a girl
anytime you want, honey.
That's not
being called a girl.
But are you saying anything anything that anybody does back in high school should be held against them as an adult.
In a row? What about 20 years listening to a man who hates this country?
That you might not want to talk about.
What did I do in high school?
Yeah.
Oh, please, I missed the whole fun of the whole thing. I went to an all-girls school. I did nothing.
No, but she's talking about a different thing. She's talking
That's
about...
what
I'm just saying.
Okay,
I'm
but
just
you
saying,
know,
why would you hesitate?
we have had... I'm trying to...
Dabbling is not an acceptable word when you're into witchcraft and Satanism.
She wasn't into it. She went on a date with the guy who was at an altar.
She did do a satanic
on an
ritual
altar.
at an altar.
What about 20 years straight calling someone your mentor who then goes on to produce hate mongering across the country? 20 years, he's your mentor, you call him uncle.
Can I say something since
What
I'm
about
sitting
that?
in
That was
Whoopi?
fine with you.
Could I take it?
Hello. Could I just say something
Sorry,
since I'm
Barbara.
sitting in Whoopi?
Yes.
Okay. When you discuss past positions, and she's a very conservative candidate, she's a Tea Party candidate, her election, the fact that she's now a candidate was something that's surprising. Okay, so we're giving special attention. She has other views. I think that she's
masturbation.
Well, but views that affect her. She doesn't think that
Unique
using,
or eunuch?
Let me finish. Using condoms, that using condoms could combat AIDS.
Right.
She has other points of view. And a conservative point of view. I think those are the things, if you want to discuss them, you discuss them. This has to be thought of in future voting and whatever her philosophy is.
I think it's
that's,
isn't it
that's
conservative?
I think it's perfect.
But whether 20 years ago she did this or she did that, I mean, it makes for juicy headlines.
But you
it
know,
really
isn't it
is
interesting
unimportant.
that Sarah Palin backs her up? And one of the reasons she got elected was because Sarah did those robocalls to make sure that she got elected. And if I recall, wasn't Sarah exorcised in Alaska by a preacher one time? She believes in exorcism. These two are into it
Does
together.
she currently believe in exorcism?
Talk about a coven. This is a coven.
Hang on, let me. You know what, though? Joy, welcome to politics of someone backing someone else. It's certainly not a coven. You know it's radical to say something like that. I think perhaps we need to maybe investigate why this woman actually got elected. I mean, got the nomination. It's because the man she was running against, no one would put someone up against him
because he was a moderate
because he was so established. And if they want to have someone that's not going to receive this critique right now unfairly, they should consider running someone up against that established candidate.
Christine O'Donnell is going to have to answer for all of this stuff because she's running as a conservative.
She won't go on any show where she's being questioned about any of this.
Okay. Yeah. There are people listening to us that think, why don't those witches shut up? So, we will for the moment. We'll be right back with more Hot Topics. Well, there are all different sources of reporting these days, and Radar Online is reporting that Octomom, Nadia Suleiman, is almost completely broke and will soon be going on welfare to support her 14 children, 8, and then she had 6 before that. So, I guess we're all paying for that. How do you feel about it?
Unfortunately, we can't keep harping on the fact that she shouldn't have did it. She shouldn't have did it. The children are here. So she's got to go on welfare. I hope, you know, they said that Vivid Entertainment in 2009 offered her $1 million to do some porn. Now it's down to $500,000.
Who would give her money to do porn? A demented obstetrician?
Well, unfortunately, this is the show. I mean, you know, now it's like, I don't know, maybe
who would allow her to have 8 children?
But we can't keep harping on that. Maybe, I don't know, and I'm not trying to say this to be funny, but maybe she needs to talk to Kate Gosselin to see how she parlayed this into what she's doing now. Kate Gosselin is on the cover of a national magazine.
I think it's timing, and I don't know if there's a method to that at all. I think maybe in terms of money management, there's something that can help her instead of
how do you money manage
Kate
14
Gosselin,
kids?
Kate Gosselin,
have a job.
I don't know.
Gosselin was married.
It was a different situation.
And
Better looking. That's the whole thing.
And supposedly they were able to support the children of what
So
they
now
would
it
have
looks
done
like,
without
yeah,
the
we
television
do.
set.
Unfortunately, we do have to pay for it because I don't know what Nadia could do to her house payments are $4,500 a month, and she needs that kind of house for 14 kids.
There was a group of people volunteering to help her early on. Are they still doing that for her? I wonder, because she obviously needs it.
I guess the point, she really does need the money for these children.
You can't go to work because you need nannies.
The bigger issue, and it was something that we discussed when she had the babies, is there going to be no kind of a law or anything that says if you can't afford children and you're going to a clinic and having in vitro, that you can have 4, 6, 8 without the consequences.
I think we definitely need to be working on that.
A law to tell a woman how many children she can have based on her finances? Are you out of your
Elizabeth,
mind?
look what's going on now. You got a woman who's got to go.
You can't have sex now because you might have a kid because you're broke?
But Elizabeth, you now have a woman, because there was no regulation. She has 14 children, and we are paying for these children. And unfortunately, we've got to help.
This is coming from a same philosophy of how do you allow a government to tell a woman how many children she can or can't? What is this, China back in
I don't think they should tell a woman, but I think there's got to be some kind of regulation with this in vitro, because any doctor who was irresponsible enough to put all of those embryos inside this woman,
there should be malpractice then there should be something about it. I'm not saying it should be. I'm not saying we should get into more of a litigious society than we're already in. All I'm saying is responsibility is somewhere. But telling a woman she cannot have children based on her finances,
you can't make a law. You can't legislate women's.
We got to do something.
You just can't.
That it is the responsibility of the individual doctors to say, this is what it is. These are your responsibilities, you, the mother. Let's think about this.
I thought that was an ethical code they took just to become a doctor. Wasn't that what they were supposed to take?
When you go in for in vitro, is there a contract you go in and sign? Okay, no. I understand that this. Do you sign a release saying, I understand that I could have 10 kids?
Yeah, they tell you could.
It's interesting. It sounds like you believe in choice.
Oh, nice way to try to corner me into something.
Because that's what it sounded like.
We don't have time for this discussion. I've always said, you know where I stand on this. I believe life begins at conception, but I, however, do not believe that the government should get in and try to tell a woman what she should do with her body.
However,
I also believe that
doctor's responsibility.
that is a person inside the womb at the time of conception.
Then we do something for the doctor?
It's the same argument. That's why I agree with you.
I believe in choice. I've gone through. I think anyone who's gone through the process of seeing an ultrasound now. I brought the ultrasound in of Isaiah at 12 weeks, at 16 weeks. He has the same smile then that he does now. I believe, this is my personal belief, life begins at conception.
Yes, you are entitled to that. Just don't legislate it for me.
I would rather change a heart than a law is my mantra.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. I'm glad you explained that.
Look, there are certain subjects that no matter what are going to produce this kind of disagreement and fireworks. And it's been, as long as I can remember, abortion, pro or con, is a huge subject. I mean, it's a subject in the Supreme Court, and it's a huge subject that continues. So the kind of discussion that we're having now, we had then, and we will probably continue to have it. Yeah. But, while we're talking about parental responsibility, there was a father in Florida who was caught on a school bus surveillance camera, and he was confronting the bullies he claims were tormenting his 13-year-old daughter, who has cerebral palsy. Take a look. We have the footage.
James Jones storms his daughter's school bus out to confront her bullies.
I'm gonna you up, but this is my daughter, and I will give a about her.
Jones says the boys have been teasing, hitting, even throwing condoms at his 11-year-old daughter, who has cerebral palsy.
Now, everybody sit down. Everybody sit down.
The mad dad also threatens the driver.
Anything I'm my daughter, I'm you up and everybody on this.
Jones was arrested, charged with disorderly conduct and disturbing a school function. He faces up to 4 months in prison.
By the way, this clip is from Good Morning America, our sister show. So should he have been arrested? Should he have done this?
No, I absolutely agree with what he did, because we've got so much on the in the news about children bullying. When you go, at what point does the parent become the protector? The girl had cerebral palsy. She's scared. She was in the hospital. She was traumatized. She had to go on suicide watch. At what point does a father get on that bus and go, who touched my daughter? Deal with me.
Exactly.
See, because 5 years ago, you wouldn't call the police. That's something I would have done.
We're talking about
arrest them. You protect your children.
Okay, so let me just give you the other side. There's the whole thing about whose responsibility. Where's the school? Where's the bus driver?
I would have went up on the bus driver, too. That's your job to stop that.
And has he gone to the school? And, you know, we've heard about
said he went
when
to the
people
school.
take things into their own hands, and it can go all the way up, and we've seen it all the way up to murder. At what point is it...
Barbara, we have children who are killing themselves. Children are hanging themselves because of the bullying. We had, there was a girl from another country who came over here. She killed herself because of, it is getting out of hand. It used to be, and most of the times, let me just finish this. It used to be when parents confronted kids because they were bullying their children years ago, they never had to do anything. It was their demeanor that scared the children, that made them think twice about bullying other children. That's what it was. You don't have to do it if they think you're crazy.
Can I say one thing? You know, why wasn't there a second person on that bus besides the bus driver? When I take the Hamptons Jitney, there's a bus driver and there's somebody to collect money and give out water. You have a kid with cerebral palsy on a bus with other children who are not handicapped.
My son has disabilities.
You don't have a second person on that bus?
It depends on how old they are.
I would go after the bus company and that whole system. That is outrageous.
Yes, but at the point he confronted the bus driver, he should have done that. My son has special needs, and I swear to God, if somebody was bullying my kid, I would be right in front of the face.
Failure of system is what we're seeing here in this. Failure of system.
And I would like to add, because I think we all agree that this man, at least from what we've seen, should not have been arrested, that he was being a good father. And so I would like to also bring the school in. Where are they? Where's their responsibility?
That's right.
We'll be right back with even more hot. Talking about Lindsay Lohan. Okay, she admitted Friday that she had failed her most recent drug test. She could face 30 days in jail. Now, originally she said, no, she didn't fail, everybody was nuts. Then she admitted that she did. So how do we feel about this?
You know, I remember we were just having a discussion last week about the fact that she was on the VMAs and she was spoofing the drinking with Chelsea Handler and wondering if it was too soon to go back and do that. Apparently, yeah. They were in talks with her to host Saturday Night Live. Apparently, yeah, maybe it is too soon for her to get back out in the spotlight.
I honestly didn't think it was serious. I was on Twitter. I thought that her tweets were like a part of a joke. I didn't know if there was something still going on. She did make remarks on Twitter that I saw online. She tweeted, I don't know, something that was...
She admitted that she was...
I failed my drug test and something, and this is a hard thing, and it's drug...
disease.
It is a disease, and I'm taking the appropriate steps. And I thought, is this real?
From
jail. We're talking about, throughout the show, we're talking about responsibility. She was supposed to go into rehab for how long?
Days?
I think she was supposed to go in for 3 months.
She did 23 days. Why
so
would they let her out?
So where is their responsibility?
I mean, is it because she's
Lindsay
Lohan that they let her out after 23 days?
Sometimes being a celebrity and getting special treatment does you great harm. In this case, this girl's in trouble. She does have a disease. Where is the responsibility of I don't know, of the doctor, of the rehab, of the court?
Well, what about Paris Hilton, who mistook cocaine for a piece of gum? What's up with her?
She got a year's probation.
I mean, I think the judges just want them out of their hair. I do. I think they give them a leniency because it's like they're worse than criminals.
But she got to probation, and in that case, it's the legal thing. But if she does it again, then she goes to jail.
Oh, if she does it again, this is the third time that she's been brought up on some kind of... Twice for marijuana, once for cocaine.
In the meantime... A word from our sponsor.
Okay. You know, we don't show up here looking fabulous like this in the morning. It takes a team of experts to get us ready. One of those women is our very own Emmy Award-winning makeup artist, the fabulous artist Rebecca Borman, who's here to tell us about a new product that may help make your skin look great. Take it away, Rebecca. Where is she?
Yes. What woman wouldn't be interested in the newest beauty information? DDF sent me their new Revolve 400X micro polishing system, a device that rotates 400 times per minute. They tell us that it can not only help polish away skin's imperfections for more flawless looking skin, but also when tested among women after just one use, DDF Revolve 400X micro polishing system showed visible improvement in skin tone, pore appearance, fine line appearance, skin radiance, and brightness. There you have it, Joy. It sounds pretty cool to me.
I love that thing. I used it this weekend. Thank you, Rebecca. And so you can try it for yourself. Everyone at home can find the DDF Revolve 400X micro polishing system at Sephora near you, or learn more at ddf.com. And our audience is all going home with one. Yay!
What former President Jimmy Carter is thinking after he's heard our hot topics, but he can't go away now. We will be right back with President Jimmy Carter. This is for you. Wow. They applauded before we were on the air, and usually they applaud and stand up when someone, but not like this.
Extended standing ovation for you. I haven't seen it in 13, 14 years.
It reminds me of a Democratic convention when I first was nominated.
Yeah, there were other times that weren't quite so great.
I remember some of those, too.
You think we're a crazy show? This show?
I'll have to think that, though. Well, no, I don't think it's crazy. I think it's entertaining and interesting, exciting, and successful.
Oh, all of the above. But we want to talk a little bit about this. You know, we talk about anti-American fury in the Middle East and high unemployment and the weak economy, and it sounds like the headlines in today's papers. But they were also the lead story during President Jimmy Carter's administration 30 years ago. And for the first time, he is sharing an intimate look at his presidency in this new book called White House Diary, which is really his thoughts throughout the time that he was serving as president. And I just have to tell you of my own personal pleasure in having you here, because I reported on so many of the aspects of your presidency.
Well, you were kind of part of it in a way, on the other side, but part of it.
Well, sometimes I was on the right side with you. But anyway, I'm very happy to see you again. It's a personal pleasure. Thank you. I did my first special with President Carter in 1976 and interviewed him so many times. Okay, so you heard us talking in the Hot Topics about Ted Kennedy, and you say that he blocked the fact that you wanted to have a health care bill, and it's taken 30 years before we have another one, which is still controversial. Now, some people are saying, and we said, why do you pick on a man who's no longer able to defend himself?
Well, he was able to defend himself when I wrote this book, because it was written in 31 years ago.
Oh, you
mean
I was the diary?
Yeah, the diary was written.
Yeah, but you didn't have to publish it now.
No, I don't have to publish anything. That's true, but I have to make a living, so I publish it. That's true.
They don't give you a pension. How many books have you written now, bud?
This is a 26th book.
Is it really?
Wow, congratulations.
No. My.
Wow.
And they're all still on sale.
You make it sound like it was personal against you from Teddy.
That's what it was.
There was some personal contradiction then, because I was president of the United States, and he was trying to become president and displace me as a Democratic nominee. So he ran against me for the last 3 years. I was in the White House. So I wasn't attacking him. And he was attacking me, and I don't blame him.
And he really blocked the health bill?
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, ahead of time, for 2 years, I worked with every leader in the House and Senate who was chairman of committees that had to do with health. He was one of them. And he supported what I was proposing up until the last minute. And the other 5 stayed with me, but at the last minute, Ted Kennedy decided that he would veto, in effect, the passage of a legislation.
I want to remind people, because during your presidency, you accomplished a great deal, some of which, as I said, I witnessed. The Panama Canal Treaty, a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt, which was enormously important, the Camp David Accords, the SALT Treaty with the Soviets, a new education and energy department. They hadn't existed before. And with it all, though, when people talk about you, they say he's a better ex-president than a president. Does that get to you?
Not really. I like to be called a wonderful, superb ex-president.
Yeah, but what about a wonderful, superb president?
That's good, too. I like them both.
Yeah, but you don't have that.
No, the reason that there's a difference is that I was defeated for re-election. and there's no way to defeat a former president because I'm already out of office, so I don't get defeated now. But see, I ran for president in 1980. I was not reelected.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason that people say that I was not a good president. If I'd been reelected, I think it would have been different.
Well, sure, of course. We and you know, your candid nature is adored by many, and probably feared by some. We spoke in Hot Topics about how open you've been critically of some presidents in the past, President Bush, President Clinton. What makes you speak out when so many maybe are more reserved in their comments on former or current administrations?
To go back when President Gerald Ford, who was a very gentle person. He spent a lot of his time when I was president criticizing me, you know, about the things I did, which was understandable. We were still close friends. So I'm involved in a lot of international affairs, and I still promote peace and human rights and that sort of thing. And I give support whenever I can to the incumbent president, no matter who it is. My best relationship with a former president was with George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, because I had a close relationship with his Secretary of State, James Baker. So I haven't had a 100% harmonious relationship with other presidents, but the Carter Center is very deeply involved in 70 countries around the world. Sometimes we deal in issues that are difficult. For instance, I just got back from China, and the week before that I was in North Korea. And in the last 3 years, since 2009, last 2 years, we haven't had any peace talks with North Korea. I think we ought to be having some kind of peace talks with North Korea. So. But I have been very reticent about not criticizing President Obama, although I feel that we ought to be having peace talks. So I speak out when I feel like it.
Well, during your presidency, the Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan.
Christmas Day of '79.
Christmas Day of '79. Well, they were there for 9 years and then they pulled out. Now we're back. We're the United States. We are now in Afghanistan. Do you feel that this is a war that we can't win?
I don't think anybody down through history has ever won a war in Afghanistan. Most people have withdrawn with doubtful results. Was it a victory or not? And my hope is that in the next few years we'll see us withdraw from Afghanistan and leave the issues up to them. But I think had we gone into Afghanistan after the Soviets withdrew and put a tiny portion of what we're spending now on the war in rebuilding Afghanistan after the Soviets destroyed it, we would not have been faced with the problems that have come since then.
What would you tell President Obama to do?
About Afghanistan or about other things?
Well, many things.
Well, to be a champion of peace, to be a champion of human rights.
About Afghanistan.
Oh, well, I think he's doing the best he can right now because he inherited it. He didn't get into Afghanistan. I think we should have gone. We should have gone in to force al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan, which we succeeded in doing. The tragic mistake was going out of Afghanistan, abandoning them into a completely unnecessary war in Iraq. And so now I think that Obama's trying
to... Did you speak out against the Iraq war?
Absolutely.
You did?
I did, yes. And that's one of the times I've criticized incumbent presidents.
President Jimmy Carter is going to stay with us so we can hear more of his views, and we'll be right back.
Jimmy Carter. President Carter, let me ask you a couple of questions. We're talking about Christine O'Donnell, who is a Tea Party candidate who just won the Republican primary in Delaware. She has a lot of baggage. Then there's another Tea Party candidate in Alaska who believes that unemployment insurance is unconstitutional. There's a lot of wacky stuff coming out of there.
Why don't you just try to ask it straight?
I don't think that the whole movement is homogeneous, so I don't want to indict everybody. What do you think of it?
Well, I see a lot of parallel between my candidacy and the Tea Party.
In what way?
I would not have been elected had it not been a tremendous amount of dissatisfaction and discouragement and disgust with what was going on in Washington. Because you have to remember that I came in right after Watergate, right after we lost in Vietnam and told a lot of lies about it, right after the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and the Kennedy brothers, right after Frank Church revealed that our government had committed murders in other countries. So there was a lot of alienation from Washington. And I was the only one from outside Washington that was really had a chance to win. So I benefited from that. But, you know, I was
but
not...
you didn't belong to a witch's coven.
No, I was not a witch. I was not involved in witches, and I wasn't deeply in debt and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I can see why the voice of the people have not come forward among those who are dissatisfied with what's going on in Washington. And most of the things they criticize actually started under George W. Bush, the immense amount of deficit and that sort of thing, and the Afghan war and so forth. That
But it doesn't
Obama
seem to
inherited.
matter. People's dissatisfaction is in the present. They don't see that the guy is trying to fix what preceded him. I think people don't understand that.
Well, because a lot of money has been spent and we are not seeing a result, could be a big deal.
Could we leave this argument and the two of you come on Hot Topics and listen to the president?
Yeah, what do you say to that?
I can only take so much.
I believe that the Tea Party movement is a transient evolution on the American political scene. I think that after this election is over, they're going to be very powerful in November, this election. They're going to have a lot to say about it. But I think after that, it's going to be a merging of the Republican Party with the Tea Party movement. And the Tea Party movement is going to fade away in importance. I think by 2012, it'll be a more conservative Republican Party running against a Democratic nominee who I'm sure will be President Obama.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Your daughter, Amy, was 9 years old when you took office, and I think of that all the time. Sherry and I were talking in the break about it. How is she now? And then looking at President Obama, what advice do you have for him raising young girls?
Well, she's great. In fact, I just left Amy and her new second son.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah. She's happily married, and her oldest son is 11 years old, and the new one just was born.
Wow.
In fact, the doctor made it be born just 2 days early so we could see it before we went to China recently. And his name is Errol, handsome, very brilliant already, I can tell. So he's our 9th grandson. We have 3 granddaughters and 5 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
It's so funny. When you're in office, I don't remember a lot of it because I was young, but I do remember I always wanted to know what Amy was doing. But I want to ask you a relationship question. You've been married to your wife, Rosalind, for 64 years. And I really want to know what you meant by this statement. You're famous for saying that you never cheated, but you had lust in your heart. How did your wife feel about that statement? What does that mean?
On television?
Okay, the first question. How did your wife feel about you saying that?
The second question.
No, I do. As a woman, I guess.
She thought that was the stupidest thing I ever did. Because I was being interviewed by Playboy magazine, which was a mistake to start with. And I was just quoting the Bible. You know, Jesus said, you know, that lust in your heart was just the same as committing adultery. And I said, well, I never have committed adultery, but I have to say I had lust in my heart when I was a high school kid in college, before I fell in love with Rosalind. Yeah. And I had lust in my heart for Rosalind after that. But
You're fixing that up now.
And you know, it cost me 15 percentage points in popularity because it happened right in the middle of the general election. Wow. And I had the reputation, as I said earlier, of being an outsider who was immune from the problems of Washington, and all of a sudden here I was admitting that you know. So it was she thought it was just dumb for me to say that.
Well, you know, the media was pretty tough on you, as you describe in the book. But today, with all the blogs and the internet and everything, they never would have let lust. That would have been the most famous thing you ever did, was lust in your heart. There's a lot more in this book, and it is his diary. These are the notations that he put in day after day, and it's a very interesting book. And we want to thank President Jimmy Carter. Whatever you may feel, Republican or Democrat, it is an honor to have him on with us. All of you in the audience are getting a copy of his book. And we'll be right back. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Mahmoud Oz on with Joy on her program tonight. That was fun, a little exciting today.
I like President Carter. It's great.
Well, and still an interesting man. Have a great day, everyone. Take a little time to enjoy the view.